Welcome back to The Wellness Woman, episode 139. I am very excited to be here today. A conversation that is one that is deeply emotional, but also incredibly important because behind the closed doors of testing laboratories, thousands of animals are still suffering in the name of research. And some of the animals we can actually connect with are dogs, and in this case, Beagles. My guest today is the wonderful Ella Majors, a lifelong animal advocate, plant-based athlete, founder of Sexy Fit Vegan, author, speaker, coach, and podcast host. She has everything going for her. Ella spent decades helping people align their daily choices with their deepest values, but advocacy extends far beyond food and wellness. Lately, she has been involved in the freeing of Beagles from rigid farms in the US, an action that was incredibly powerful, incredibly successful after many people like her came together. Many people wrote to their representatives to make sure that this ended, but there's much more work to do. So Ella's mission is truly to work on creating a better world where veganism is not just an option, it's the only option to save our planet, our animals, and ourselves. So before we get into the episode, I really want to give a big shout out to Namawell for the J2. You guys know I love them. If you want to get yourself a special, next week we have a wonderful series coming up for women's hormones. So we will share one juicing recipe every day on Instagram where you can also ask questions, but also you have a chance of winning a J2, a giveaway that never happens. So make sure that you follow us and you also tag your friends, make comments, share, and we will reward you, I promise. On top of it, if you want to get your J2 next week from Monday to Saturday, you can grab a $90 discount on the J2. So I'm really excited about this. So before anything else, before we get into this conversation, I really want to thank everybody that is staying here for this conversation, for this podcast episode, because it's very important. We're talking about things that touch our hearts, I'm pretty sure. Okay, without further ado, let's dive into it. Welcome, Ella. Hi, Ella. Thank you so much for joining me on The Wellness Woman. How are you?
I'm doing wonderful. Thank you so much for having me on.
Anytime. I am so in awe of everything that you do, but also I've followed your journey and I know that there is just so much depth to it. It's like from the ethical part to fitness and health and now some very big missions. So in today's episode, we'll really cover all of that and really show the world who you are and why what you're doing is really something that can inspire us all to become better humans.
Sounds like a great plan to me.
So can you just tell me a little bit about your story in a nutshell if people don't know you?
Yeah. Whew, you know, being 46, it's been a journey, man, in life. But I've been an athlete since I was 5 years old. But that's one of my passions is fitness and wellness and health. And my other passion, which is kind of the foundation of everything I do, is animals. So even though I've been into sports since 5, it was when I was 7 that I had my big aha moment, if you'd like me to share about that. Yeah.
That.
So for anyone who doesn't know, Daniel Boone, he's actually very integral to this story. He's one of our first American folk heroes, and he wore a raccoon hat, and he was a wilderness guy, and he carried around a shotgun. And I was in first or second grade maybe, and I got in the car after school. I was about 7 years old, and my mom asked how my day was, and I said, we learned about Daniel Boone, and I thought I didn't understand why he was hero. He was so mean. I said, he killed animals and he ate them. And my mom looked back at me from the front seat of the car, and I kind of remember this, and she said, well, Ella, we're just very lucky. Nowadays, we get to go to the grocery store to buy our meat. And it really was at that moment that I connected the chicken on my plate with an actual chicken. And I was horrified. And I told my mom, well, that's it, Mom. I'm never doing that again. And that was it for me. I never ate meat again. And I just knew intuitively at that moment that it was my purpose on earth to be a voice for animals. So in school, it's when they would give assignments, I would start writing about how I didn't understand why people ate animals, that we didn't need to, because here I was an athlete and I was a gymnast when I was young. So, I mean, we had 4 hour practices multiple days a week. I did also dance classes and I was on the swim team. And so I was very active. And in gymnastics, you're doing pull-ups and gaining all this strength. And I was now doing this all by eating the side dishes on my parents' dinner table because I refused to eat the meat. And in fifth grade, I out pull-upped everybody in school, including the boys, and so here I was pretty much proving at that young age that you don't need animals to be strong, to be healthy, to be fit. And by the time I turned 15, I really understood at that time the dairy egg industries, animal testing, and I became an animal activist and became vegan at the age of 15 and started leading protests. And I remember being in middle school, getting like buttons that said boycott L'Oreal because they test on animals. And I would hand them out in school. So yeah, it's that's where my journey started, and then I jumped into the fitness industry and kind of used my physique and showing people that you can have a strong, lean physique on plants alone. So I kind of went that route. And then in 2015, I founded the brand Sexy Fit Vegan to help bring veganism into the mainstream and just show people that you didn't have to be a weirdo. You didn't have to be a hippie. You didn't have, breaking all the stereotypes. So you didn't have to be scrawny and malnourished, and to really just show the world that being vegan, that compassion is sexy. Like there's nothing more sexy to me than somebody who has a beautifully open heart and whose actions really align with the values of love and compassion on this planet for all beings.
What a
That's my story in a nutshell.
Well, it's beautiful. What a wonderful way to introduce your mission and who you are, because I wish that I had had that heart opening as a child, I loved animals, but I just never for once connected that they were on my plate and they were food for me when I would see them and not want to eat them, when they
Yeah,
were
we're so
alive.
disconnected,
So
right? Like we never have to see it. It's hidden from us, and society tells us this is normal, natural, and necessary, that we need to eat meat, that's how it is and that's how it should be. And we take that for granted, like we do a lot of things. And our parents, all the influencers in our lives, show us that that's normal, that's what we need to do, that we need it to be healthy, that we've got to drink that glass of milk to get our calcium. There's all these narratives that we're bombarded with. And I was talking to somebody the other day, and it was interesting, and they were like, wow, I really admire you for doing it so early. And I was like, you know what? I really admire you for doing it so late, because I think the longer you wait, the more set in your ways that you are, the more years you've spent doing things a certain way and thinking things a certain way, the harder it is to then change, right? So I think there's something really admirable about later in life, having the openness to do something different later. Like change is hard. And so I really have a lot of respect for people who make the transition later in life.
yeah, I've converted some of my clients who are in their 60s because I work with perimenopause to postmenopause, and I have a few postmenopausal women here, and I'm just like, let's do this on plans, pause on plans. That's my new plan, because you are going to benefit so much more from lower inflammation. You're going to also feel much more aligned, and I think energetically they actually feel this is the right thing too,
Mm-hmm.
because they still get the protein they need and then some, plus the fiber, which is something incredibly lacking anyway in the world. So when we talk about health, this is the beautiful thing about our plant-based diet. If you do it correctly, if you're not eating the junk vegan food, but you're actually having whole foods, your protein comes packaged with every macronutrient that you actually need, and then the fiber and the micros that you don't find in an animal diet.
Exactly. Yes. It's a win. It's just a win-win-win for
for everyone.
everyone, right? Yeah.
Absolutely. And it's funny when you said we listen to these influencers talking about needing meat. And when I see pictures of our food, right, it's so abundant and so bright and it's so attractive. And then when I see people actually sharing animal parts, I'm just like, what's nice about this? Like,
Yes.
what? There's nothing attractive. I don't even understand now, you know? I never liked those pictures anyway, but like now I'm just like, why?
Yes.
So,
It's very, I think it just takes the ability to compartmentalize, to,
mhm.
separate ourselves from what that is. And, our brains, like, we have the power to do that. And I know, because I need to do it, because I am so connected to the suffering of animals. And I know, I'm sure you can relate, and many people listening can relate. I'm so connected. If I allowed my heart to be so open all the time, I would walk around in tears. I'd be a mess. I couldn't go to the grocery store and see the line, the meat counter. I would fall apart if I
Mm,
didn't know how to, have taught myself how to kind of compartmentalize that and separate it out so that I can be a functional human being. Because I know if I'm miserable, who's going to want to join the vegan club?
yeah,
If vegans are walking around sad and angry and miserable all the time, it's really important for us to learn how to take care of ourselves and our emotions, and to find joy in our lives, and to be happy people
yeah,
despite, all the suffering that we're so feel so connected to. And it's hard at times,
yeah.
and we can't always be happy, but I think it really is important to learn how to do that, so that we can share with people how beautiful it is to live in this way.
Yeah, absolutely. I want to actually dive a lot deeper into that, but I just want to ask you one question about the health part and the fitness.
Mm-hmm.
You are a woman in perimenopause as well. You're in your 40s, look
Yep.
amazing.
Thank you.
And I just want to encourage women who are afraid of the vegan lifestyle if they're starting now, later, when they are going through these transitions. What is the best advice that you can give nutritionally and also when it comes to exercise for women that are in perimenopause and over, to actually know that this is a very safe way to eat and that to actually get the bodies that we wish we had when we were 20?
Yes, absolutely. I think, focusing on both fiber and protein are two very important things. We do need more protein as we get older, so it is important to do that. But like you said, let's not go with isolated proteins. Let's try to make sure that we're getting a very well balanced diet with all the fiber that we need to reduce inflammation. And strength training is so, so important. Like, that's, if there's one takeaway, a lot of us think we want to burn calories by doing all this cardio and zone 2 training. And what's really important is strength training, to prevent some of, like, osteoporosis and things like this. Um, and also, if we listen to Stacey Sims, which I buy
Mhm.
into a lot of her things, right? So strength training and some high intensity intervals. I would say those are the two kind of keys: strength training and high intensity intervals. And I do recommend people check out Stacey Sims. I think she's got some really great points from a scientific background.
Yeah, she does. And she's also plant-based, which really, really helps the movement.
Right.
Yeah, perfect. Well, thank you for that. We'll do another episode when you're a bit calmer with your schedule to talk about maybe your diet. But I know that you have
Yeah.
a new website coming out, more programs, so people can still work with you and learn from you because you obviously have an amazing physique. And then, of course, the history of being an athlete since a young age that does show. But it's consistency to keeping it up as we get older. So we will put
Yes,
everything in the show notes.
I have not stopped moving or training. I mean, I've had plenty of, injuries and things like that, but I've been moving and training my whole life. And at 46 years old, I feel stronger and more balanced in my body and in my strength than ever, because recovery is harder when we get older. Like, these
Yeah.
are things that are just naturally things we have to deal with as we get older. It's harder to recover. We need more warm up. So I've adjusted my training over the years to include more mobility and primal movements, and I'm doing a lot of calisthenics, body weight training. But in that, I'm as well as the weight training. So I've just incorporated so much more to have this really balanced body. And as I deal with injuries, I learn more myself and how to then prevent future injuries, and then working that into my system. So yoga is really important as well, having the flexibility, the mobility, things that are easy to say, I'll stretch tomorrow, right? But this leads to injuries, and it's harder to recovery. So it's just to recover these days. So it's very, very important to have a very well-rounded, balanced diet and training program as well.
100%. Okay, now we go into the part where I really, this is where I started following you even more because of the latest events. So I'd like for you to, obviously you said you are actually vegan, you've been an activist since 15, but in the last few months, there were some events that were very, very prominent also on the media. And I'd love for you to share that event and rescuing, therefore, a beautiful little girl, Jane, that is living with you now.
Yes, I'll bring her on. She's sleeping beside, so I can do. Is this on YouTube as well?
It will be on YouTube, yes.
Okay, yeah, so I can show her. Yeah, so this year in September, or no, in April, I got a text from a dear friend of mine who is an animal advocate, and it said, "If you're getting this, I'm likely in jail." And what I learned, which she hadn't shared with me previously, is that she was involved in the first, or not the first, but the first this year, open rescue at Ridgeland Farms. Ridgeland Farms is one of the country's largest breeding facilities for dogs for biomedical research. So mostly they breed dogs and sell them to universities and companies like Merck. And then they do some in-house animal testing as well. So she was part of a group that rescued 22 beagles that day, that actually went in and carried them out as part of what's called an open rescue. For those who don't know, that means you go into a facility to rescue an animal based on knowledge about that animal having proven cruelty that is illegal cruelty, and other authorities have not done their job to enforce the laws. And so it's come to the point where it's either those animals continue to suffer or somebody goes in and saves them. And she was part of the group that went in to save them in March. And 22 were saved that day. And then they started organizing a larger open rescue for the following month, which I got involved with and became a team leader for that. We call it a red team leader, meaning that we are going to try to breach the facility and rescue more dogs. Our goal was to get 2,000 dogs out that day. There was almost 1,000 people who came out that day, and we were met with a lot of violence from the authorities, from the local sheriff's department, they had brought in a bunch of departments from all over, authorities, private police, and they tear gassed us. I'm talking about just kind of normal people that cared so deeply about animals that they were willing to do what it takes and get arrested if they needed to. And yeah, we were shot with rubber bullets and tear gassed, and we did not get in that day. But it raised such awareness and brought so much media attention that negotiations went on after that. And actually, in just about a week from now, the last of the 150, there are only 150 left now. We've gotten since then almost 2,000 dogs out of that facility, and Ridgeland Farms is shutting down. And I am so grateful to everyone, not only the people that came that day, but for 10 years there have been organizations and individuals working on this, getting Ridgeland shut down for all the violations for animal abuse. And then there the negotiating teams that went in and negotiated, and yeah, all the dogs got released that day. And so I ended up adopting one, which I hadn't planned on doing, but I went up to help with the evacuation of the first maybe 500, and I'll bring her on. Jane, you want to come say hi? You're so tired from your walk. I know. Come here. Oh, there we go.
So cute. Hi, baby.
This is Jane, and she's sleepy at the moment. This is her nap time. But, I think about her and her story, and she spent the entire first year and a half of her life in a tiny wire cage. We're talking about wire flooring so that they can, poop and pee, and they can just wash it through the chain links. She never touched grass. She never saw the sunlight. This is a dog, right? Um, that's what dogs do. They play in grass and need human love and touch. And beagles are used specifically for animal research because they're so sweet, because they're so docile, because they don't really fight back. And so I think about Sweet Jane being in there for a whole year and a half, the first year and a half in her life, and I witnessed her, touching grass for the first time, seeing the sunlight, and it's almost surreal, to think that this being right here was destined to be sold off into a laboratory to have cruel experiments done to her, and then for her to be killed afterwards, which is almost always the case. And it's mind-blowing, and it's hidden, and people don't even know that this still exists, this still happens. So yes, so this is my new project, is continuing this fight to get every Jane out of every breeding facility and laboratory in this country, and we're doing that in part by organizing possibly the world's biggest march to abolish animal testing.
That is amazing. And I think it's become an international mission as well, because since it happened in the US, the UK started also talking about it and trying to go in and rescue the beagles there. The interesting part is that, most of people don't know that the products that we buy from Procter and Gamble, for example, or any other brand that is not vegan and tested on animals, it's it's available, like it's been tested on these poor animals, which makes not even sense, because if things are for our skin, how can you test on an animal? Like, it has nothing to do. It's like testing things on rats, and the research is then not really 100% great for human. And when people bring the ethics up, that really does get me. I'm like, hold on a second. You have a choice as a human to go to be part of a test, of a study, with knowing the risk, right? Because you get paid for it and you choose to do it. These animals are not paid. They don't choose to do it. They're just chosen, forced, and we don't care. And it's ridiculous. And then these lives are just useless. And then we get outraged when we see somebody mistreating a dog in the street, but we mistreat every other animal we eat by just eating them and contributing to a very cruel industry. And we also contribute to cruelty to the dogs we love so much by buying these products that are tested on them. We are so disconnected, but also like slightly psychotic as a race, as a species.
Right? It is very, very interesting, and exactly what you're saying. It's like that compartmentalizing, and not knowing. I mean, people don't know, and also, so we've got the testing on cosmetics and things like that, which are a little easier to avoid, but also the future of science and testing for drugs. And the truth of the matter is, this is a huge industry. This is a multi-billion-dollar industry, and it's very hard to get them to change it. But the fact is that over 90% of drugs that make it to human trials, because they've passed animal trials, over 90% of those fail in human trials. So we're talking about a 90% failure rate.
Yeah.
And the government is funding these tests that take 10 to 15 years. again, with a 90% failure rate. Billions of dollars go into these, again, with a 90+% failure rate. So it's crazy. It's always about following the money. And we have now alternatives. I am not a scientist, but I have read and seen the documentaries and seen the evidence that the organs on a chip and all the other methods that are out now are being used and are ready to use, and they're less expensive and they're more accurate by far. They're ready to be used now. So we've got to change the system. And we're making big progress, and there's a lot of legislators on board now, and we're going to be really honing in on that throughout the March to Abolish Animal Testing, to keep this momentum going, to keep growing the awareness, and to demand change, and to demand that change happens now.
Yeah. Now, I know that you are incredibly busy organizing this, so I'd love for you to actually share more about what is the plan, that whatever you can share that is publicly available.
Mm-hmm.
What is the plan? How people can get involved as well? Because obviously, yes, it's better when people are located close to the action points, but at the same time, if this can become something that all of us, even if we are in other regions, can contribute to, would be amazing. So whatever you can share now, and then of course, whenever you send me updates, I will share them also on social media, but I'll put everything in the show notes as well, so people can still read and learn, and if they can participate in person, they will be able to do it. So yeah, tell me all about what are you organizing?
Yeah, so I was actually on my way to the Animal and Vegan Advocacy Summit in Toronto just 2 months ago. And I was on the plane, and I was listening to our Hen House podcast, and heard animal activist Gretchen Primack talk about this idea she had for a march to, again, keep the momentum going, to put the pressure on from Albany, New York, all the way to Marshall Bioresources, which is now the country's largest breeder of animals for research. They've got 16 to 20,000 beagles. So Ridgeland had 2,000. Marshall has over 16,000 beagles. They've also got another 40,000 animals, cats, pigs, and ferrets that they breed. It is a huge facility that is making billions of dollars on the lives of these animals. So she said, I just have this crazy idea for a march. And I heard her say it, and I said, I'm in. I want to help organize this thing. I want to do this. And I contacted her, never met her before. We hit it off, and we started organizing this march. So it is 207 miles. And let me just say right off the bat, those who can join in person do not have to participate in the whole thing. We've got a huge kickoff event happening. Actually, starting on the 11th of September, we're doing a screening of a new documentary called The New Gold Standard. It is a fantastic documentary. I got a sneak preview. It shares the ins and outs of the science and what is now the gold standard, and it's not animal testing. So we're going to kick it off with some speakers there. Hopefully the producer will be there on the night of the 11th, and then we have a big kickoff event in Albany, New York. So if you want to come just to the event, great. We're going to have politicians speaking. We're going to have music. We're going to have a great big event in Albany, and then we're going to start marching. So every day we're going to march about 15 miles and have an evening event along the route all the way until we get to Marshall Bioresources. We'll have press conferences. We're going to have some adoption events. We're going to be decorating vegan dog biscuits and taking them to shelters. We're going to do everything we can to raise awareness about what's happening, while also gaining media attention and putting pressure on the politicians and the powers that be who have the power to do something about this. And then we'll end up at Marshall Bioresources for a huge protest and rally. This will all be a peaceful protest where it'll, a family-friendly event where everyone can come. We will not be risking arrest, and that we will not be doing anything illegal. This will be all on public property. We have a lot of organizations involved in this that are not going to support illegal activity. So I want everybody to know this particular event is going to be all legitimate. We're getting our permits and insurance and all those things. So it will be available for everyone. If you go to the website, marchforanimals.org, there are other ways to help too. If you cannot come in person, we've got ways to support, to volunteer, to donate. We also have some people reaching out who say, hey, look, I'm in, the UK and I can't make it. What if we did a satellite march or a satellite protest, on the same days? And we said, wow, that would be amazing. So we are looking for people who cannot make it in person to organize events in their local area as we march, so we can all be in solidarity together. Having a protest at a breeding facility in your area the same day we have our protest in Marshall on the 26th of September. There are lots of ways that you can help. The bigger we make this story, the more people that participate in any way possible, the more we can show our strength in numbers and that people care deeply and that we're not going away. We're going to keep fighting until every cage is empty.
Love that. And how are you handling the press? Because I know when Ridgeland happened, they really lied on TV and make it look like, you said everything is done in a proper way with permits. At the time, they were not permit, but at the same time, as you said, no violence on the volunteers and rescuers whatsoever. Everything, however, on the other side was about violence and attacking and hurting before arresting some of the rescuers. So how are you handling the media so that they actually share truth? Is that even possible? Are the organization helping you, making sure that the quality control on their side is done also, not just for us respecting those laws, but also for the media respecting the truth, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's tough, right? Because there are so many nuances and ins and outs for what we did at Ridgeland in terms of, how you can spin it. We said we were going in to help the dogs. They said we're breaking and entering, so there's lots of ways to spin this. This particular march will not have any of that. So I think it would be a lot harder for the media to spin this in any other way, because we're not participating in those sort of activities. But what we are saying is, and we are going to have several of the people that were arrested from Ridgeland are on our organizing committee. We're going to honor them and feature them because they are going to trial soon. They're facing over 12 years in prison. 51 people from Ridgeland for rescuing puppies from a facility with over 300 citations for animal cruelty, and the facility that's shutting down, yet the district attorney over there is continuing to charge people, right? And it's insane. So we're going to be honoring them, featuring them. But again, this we are really working on crossing our T's and dotting our I's and making sure that we are all within the bounds of the law in a very distinct way, so that it can be more like, I don't know if you saw the March for Peace that the Buddhist monks did, but that's kind of, there are lots of marches throughout history, right? And we can't predict how the authorities are going to act. I know, North Rose is the town that Marshall Bioresources is in. That town is kind of, quote, owned by Marshall Bioresources. I mean, it's a very rural area. A lot of the people in that town are employed by Marshall Bioresources. We are not going to be welcome there. Marshall Bioresources has huge parks that they have bought there. We are not going to be welcome. So we are going to face, some hardships, I believe, but it's not going to be anything like Ridgeland. That said, we are saying, look, we're showing you that we can come here in numbers. We are dedicated and we are not going to give up. So government, you need to act. Politicians, you need to act. Let's call all the buyers from Marshall Bioresources and make sure they know that they're in the public eye. And if they're buying from this cruel facility, we're going to boycott them and let other people know. So along the route, we're going to have actions that people can take from anywhere you are to help keep the momentum going, to raise awareness. And then we'll say, look, if you guys don't do something in a few months, maybe early 2027, we will be back and we will do what it takes to save these animals.
Yeah. And how many people do you have signed up for now already?
We have several hundred people so far signed up. We are looking to get 1,000. So we are well on our way. We literally just got our social media up. I mean, we did not give ourselves much time to plan such a massive project. So we are working really quickly and really hard. We've got over 40 people on our organizing committee. These are all volunteers. This is a grassroots effort. It is incredible to see so many people willing to donate their time and their energy, not getting paid anything, to put this together, to make this happen. And then all the people that are up for, traveling out there, coming and marching with us. It's such a beautiful, community building effort. And it's so wonderful to be around people that care so deeply and are willing to put forth their time and energy and into something like this.
That is amazing. And it takes a lot of courage. And I think you using your position of, I don't want to call you an influencer, but you're so much more than that. But you do influence in a positive way by being online and being open and sharing and truly just showing up. So I love that, because we see this influencers world where it's all about what you can sell rather than doing something altruistic for others. And I think, I think the future is going to be about grassroots movements a lot more, and communities coming together, doing the right things. And I hope that living by example can inspire others to really take the right steps to making those changes. Like, we always think as humans that we have the right to do what we want that serves us, and sometimes just questioning our role on this planet. And, it is for the animals, but it's also for the planet. And for people that don't care about the animals, I always have a question. If you don't care about the animals, do you care about your children? Because, there is a ripple effect with everything, and everything is connected. So ultimately, even if you don't care about animal lives, and in your mind you think it's fine to hurt them to become food, what about the planet we live on? Because your children won't have one if we keep on doing what we're doing. So it's so much bigger than that. And I think really this is one thing that should bring everybody together, which, in another conversation, we'll talk about why I don't understand how environmentalists are not vegan. It blows my mind.
I totally am with you on that one. And I think what you said was just hit the nail on the head just now about, well, kind of meeting people where they are. Like, most of us can agree that dogs, don't deserve to suffer, and that's wrong, and for many of us, we see kind of all animals as equal sentient beings with an equal right to live. But this is such a powerful movement because most of us already agree that dogs should not suffer. So if we can start there, and we're talking about politicians from across the board, Republicans and Democrats, truly bipartisan, which, I mean, how many issues are truly bipartisan? So few. But we're coming together on this. People of all ages, of all cultures, from all sides of the political spectrum. And that's pretty amazing. And also, I saw after Ridgeland, because a lot of the people who came out and risked their lives and their freedom were not vegan. And a lot of them afterwards, because they were led by so many vegans, and because we just shared about why we were doing why we are vegan, a lot of them expanded their circles of compassion very quickly and became vegan. So I see this as an opportunity to not only save the lives of dogs, but also help people expand their circles of compassion to other species as well. And we start here, and we get a win. We got a huge win with Ridgeland, and now we got to build and get win after win. And it is going to be incremental change. Like, things in the government systems don't change overnight. It's hard because we want them to. We want them to just say, okay, pass a law, ban all animal testing. That's not going to happen. But let's start with banning dog testing. Let's get that passed. There's a win. Then we have momentum. We go to the next. We want the March for Animals to represent all species. We're starting with dogs because that's a win we can get first. And then we'll keep going until, like I said, every cage of all species is empty. And it's for people that care about people too. because again, the science is bad science. The science is bad science. 90+% failure rate. This is not good for humans either.
No.
It's a business. And that's why it's a win for everyone except those in that business. But we need to, have a path for them to transition to these other methods of science.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for this. Now I'm very respectful of your time, and we agreed on a shorter interview for today. So if there is anything else that you want to share, when people can find you and follow you, and again, we'll put them in the show notes, but share away. And then, I'm looking forward to chatting even more next time when this March is done and we can catch up on it.
Absolutely. I would happily come back and have another conversation. This has been wonderful. So the first website is marchforanimals.org. That's where you can learn all about the march and sign up to be a part of it in any capacity. And then we've got our social media handles, March for Animals. So at March for Animals, you can also find me at ellamajors.com and Sexy Fit Vegan on Instagram.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Ella. You are amazing, and I'm rooting for you from here. And I have a couple of ideas, so I'll be in touch with you offline, and then I really look forward to having great news coming out of this movement and this action plan. We'll catch up later in the year to see how that has gone, and I hope this really starts a mission for many, many people everywhere, and we become much more coherent with our thoughts and our actions, but also much more mindful about what our impact is on lives and nature and each other.
I so appreciate you and everything you're doing to spread this message of health and love and compassion in the world. You're making a big difference, and I really appreciate you.
Thank you. Likewise. Bye. Thank you so much.
Bye.
Thank you, Ella, for being on the podcast, for sharing everything you do, and quite honestly, one of the best conversations. I know we had very limited time today, but you shared such juicy details about what's to come in terms of actions to save more animals, and of course, your wonderful work in general. I look forward to talking to you in the future again to dive a little deeper also about women's wellness. But in the meantime, what's really a priority is this action to come in September. So guys, follow Ella, go into the show notes, follow her, see what's going on. If you are in New York and you want to join in person, do, but also you can join globally online, and there will be all the details for us to actually get involved. All right, guys, as you know, if you like the podcast, please do share it, make comments, make sure you rate it so that I can have better speakers all over, all the time, really in amplifying the conversation about women's wellness, our work on this planet as humans, and much more. Love you and see you next week. Bye.